Because just to emphasize that point, so prosecutions remain in the prosecution. So if a matter had matured to the level of a prosecution, obviously that was retained. Like J. Arthur Brown is one of those where the prosecutor dealing with that matter transitioned into the DPP office and continued dealing with the case. But investigations, of course, the NPA no longer had investigative power. And that was in the police then.
Let me ask Mfundisi. We'll start with you now. Okay. Mfundisi.
Thanks, Commissioner. To the extent that you may have been in the prosecution space for this longest time, Advocate Mopp, I just want to get your sense. If anybody or society is having all this outcry about possible political interferences in your space, and I call it that's your space because you have been there for this 33 years, what would be your immediate answer? Would you agree or to disagree?
I would disagree. And speaking for myself, I've always said I'll be happy to go to a court of law to testify that no one has ever tried to influence any decision that I've had to make. I'd be comfortable doing that. And I would like to believe that all of my colleagues would be able to do that. Of course, there have been contexts where the allegations have been made, and those are, once again, it's a handful of cases. But because they are prominent cases, the narrative then becomes that you are captured. I went to the deputy minister at an event somewhere at Alliance Francaise. I even forget what the topic was about, a member of the public just passed and said, because I was introduced as an NPA member, I wasn't in the DS, I was in the NPA. Oh, the NPA is captured. Huh? And I thought, okay, no, so do you have the engagement? I mean, it was just a little passing comment. And so I take to heart. Huh? And despite that, I am never embarrassed to say I work for the National Prosecuting Authority because of the good work that colleagues do. I recognize that there have been mistakes. I recognize there are question marks in some instances, and I too also want answers on some of those. Some colleagues have started saying they work for the National Ports Authority, and it's a sad day if you have to place yourself under Transnet to get away from the NPA. So yeah, it's I would like to think that my colleagues can all offer the same that I'm offering to say. I'm confident I can testify that it doesn't happen to me, and that they were able to do the same. And I'm not including the 6 or 8 that I say there are question marks about their conduct, and that must all be accounted for and explained. Huh?
So if elevated to the NDPP, that would be your approach to things. You'd be able to say, in all these peculiar cases in which we may be perceived to be politically influenced in taking these decisions, your approach would first be, let's then clean our house, review these matters and see if perhaps there is logic, any credence to the criticism.
Certainly, and not necessarily on the basis just of speculation in the media. But where even within the organization, people have said, okay, we don't know the facts here, but we would like to understand what transpired here. It's important, and that's part of that process. And the process I was talking about is not a cathartic process to say, let us know who did what in the organization. It's not that. It's for that very reason, so that we know who did what. People can be held accountable, and conversely, people are afforded an opportunity to state their case. And they may very well convince us that their conduct was rational and lawful, because that is required for us to build the team. If you still have doubts about, I'm not so sure about this, it's not healthy. And it feeds into this narrative, that there are problems in the organization. It may be cathartic, but that's what I'm saying. It's not, the objective is not to have a cathartic experience. It's fact-finding, making determinations, and remedying where remedy is required. And where people have been vindicated, also communicate that we've investigated, we've interrogated, and in fact people have given rational explanations and that their conduct was lawful. so that we build that team I'm talking about.
Thanks, Minister Mda.
Prof, next.
Can I ride on that question, because I think we've been skirting around it? What's your threshold to say an organization is either captured or has internal problems? Should it be a majority of cases, given the sensitivity of the sector? Imagine if 1 or 2 judges were found to have been compromised, the perception out there. It doesn't have to be a majority. Even when we talk of the state capture, you don't have to say we have 30-something departments. Only 5 departments have a problem. What's your threshold? Because I'm struggling with this notion that no, it's a few cases there. And yet, some sectors, it could just be few sectors, and the perception, given the scale, the scope, and the impact they have on society, it become that generalized perception.
So to answer the question crisply, the threshold is 0. And so that's why I'm lamenting the fact that we haven't had a process where we can demonstrate and account for those particular cases. And so that is why it festers and lingers. Because there's no communication, there's no determination, a definitive statement to say, but this has been an issue in the organization, we've interrogated it, we've lanced the boil, this is what we found, and communicate. So when I say 0, in other words, we cannot afford to have even a single instance of a perception of being captured. So that's the 0 threshold I speak about. It is untenable to even have that mentioned in the same context of the NPA. So any instance of that nature must be addressed and dealt with.
Let me come on that one again. We know for a fact that there has been attempts, sometimes successful, of political influence on the NPA. And as such, you have lived long enough in that organization and you have not made a very clear categorical statement in your assessment of those moments. You say, no, it might just be a few individuals here and there. And yet, in society, they know for a fact that there has always been this pressure, and as such, no other NPA director has lasted and finished their term.
So just for context, so the one that we know definitively is Mr. Pikoli, because that was ventilated. He was able to demonstrate an attempt to influence his decision-making. So that's been ventilated, and that's why we can say categorically that that is a firm instance where there was an attempt by an executive member to interfere in prosecutorial decision-making. So that one is clear. The others I speak about, Professor Vikeni, is where we don't have that clarity, and that is I'm saying, that's why I lament the fact that we don't have that clarity. Because for us to make definitive statements like we can in the context of Mr. Pikoli, we need to have the facts. And from where I'm sitting, I don't have the facts, and I don't think that society has the facts. And even within the organization, maybe there are a few who have perceptions, but who don't have all the facts. And that is the opportunity that I lament that we've missed, for us to be able to get to grips with what exactly transpired. And as I say, it may be at a perception level where even I think, but this conduct, I would like it to be explained, and that someone may be able to offer an explanation. And so that's the opportunity that I.
So to you, only Pikoli case out of the many successive cases, you would say definitively this is the case of political influence, whether successful or not.
So I'm very clear to draw a distinction between that one where it was definitive and where there are allegations of interference. And that one, the point I'm making is that one, the interference was demonstrated. In the others, we have not seen a clear demonstration of that influence. There may be very strong views, there may be very strong perceptions, but that does not carry the day. Can I maybe just by drawing an analogy? The other day, I heard a comment, and this is a matter that I was involved in. The comment was, in that particular case, the police believed that the accused was guilty. Now, I was involved in that case. And it may very well that the police believed that accused was guilty. but there was no evidence to suggest the accused was guilty. And so that's the distinction I draw between having the perception and having a factual basis to make a statement like that.
You covered. You are covered. Okay, you come on that side.
Thanks, Minister. There's one aspect that I wanted to probe you on. What is your understanding of transformative constitutionalism within the ambit and context of prosecutorial function? And as you attempt to respond to this question, please cover the aspect of your role as NDPP in operationalizing it.
It's an interesting question. I mean, I must say I haven't really reflected on that in that context, because normally I would look at the transformative agenda within the Constitution is to try and look at society broadly and how we seek and how we achieve redress more broadly. So the NPA is unique in the sense that it is not a typical government department, and I say that not in a pejorative sense, but with respect, because it's a unique function that the NPA plays. And so without having given it too much thought, off the cuff, I would say to you, sir, that there is limited scope for the NDPP to play a transformative role in terms of the broad context of society, because you are charged with the responsibility of making decisions without fear, favor, and prejudice within the context and the confines of the criminal law. So in terms of playing that role as a decision maker, I say it is a limited role. Where there is scope for the NDPP to play a more broader role in terms of a more transformative role is in the prosecution, broadly speaking. The composition of the prosecution, there you have greater scope to ensure that the transformation agenda that government broadly seeks to achieve, that you're able to participate in that, to give effect to it, and to ensure that the NPA is a transformed organization. Not decision-making, but in terms of how you conduct yourself. In other words, are we really able to, as an organization, to say that Batupile means Batupile? Are we living that expression as an ideal, as an organization? Are we treating our people with respect and with dignity? So that is where I see in that broad rubric of a broader responsibility of the NDPP and the role that the individual must play, that is where I see that transformative role manifesting. I would be reluctant at this stage to say that it is within the context of decision-making. Because unlike the judiciary has a role to play there in terms of how they interpret the particular statutes to give effect to the transformative aspirations of legislation. We are not in that position. We're dealing with criminal law. I always like to say it's right and it's wrong, it's black and it's white. My wife is a psychologist and she says there's a massive gray area that I overlook, but it's the law and the facts and decision-making. There's no role for a transformative agenda in terms of decision-making on a case basis. But taking a step back and looking at your role more broadly speaking within the organization, certainly there's scope for you to play a role and to execute a transformative agenda in the organization.
Thank you very much. I think we'll go to Mr. Mavundlela on the public comments. It's your part as we conclude the...
Thanks very much, Minister. Advocate Mopp, it's interesting to me, and I believe to everybody who would have then realized that members of the public who commented on your their perceived suitability were only 5. I'm not sure whether it's because you're not very well known, or because you do a lot of good things, or,
I'd like to think it's the latter, sir.
or whether you are those kind of people who does their work and just walk away and never look for accolades. But whichever way that it comes about, be pleased to know that none of them is actually objecting to your possible elevation should the president feel that you are a capable candidate to be put in that position. So I just thought I should let you know of that, because I know that the panel would not pick up anything on public comments that are either negative on your name. So you can rest assured that as you try to do your work harder every day, the public is watching you differently.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Actually,
Minister.
maybe you missed this one. There was somebody who actually commented that you were too junior.
Yes.
Did you notice that?
I noticed that, Minister, and I hope you read my response, Minister. Huh? Because I think, and I say this with respect to the individual who made that comment, the person focused only on my rank. The person didn't look at my experience in the organization, the different roles that I've played, that although I've been based in the Western Cape, I've played leadership roles at a national level, and that my experience broadly, and my submission to the panel was reflect my experience broadly in the organization, what I've done, and then measure me on my interview here today as well, and not focus on title or the position. As I said, I've always seen myself as a national leader, and I engage as a national leader. In as much as I don't let the title restrain me in terms of my engagement, I don't let the title dictate or assert authority. It's more about influence. And I think I offer that within the organization.
The other one, I think Mmamoloko went through. The other one is on the lifestyle audit, which I think you did. But the person says you are since compromised, and I think you responded.
Yeah.
Can you go that?
Minister, that individual, I mean, I hope you read it, and I must apologize, but some of these things you've got to put in context. Yeah? The allegations that were made against me that I was trying to favor a friend who in fact had no real authority, and that is why I took the trouble to demonstrate to the panel the process that one follows, my interventions, how my interventions came about.
Oh, this is in relation to Mr. Dana.
To Mr. Dana, yes, because that's the same individual that says I'm compromised. It's in that context. And hopefully the panel will appreciate the detailed response I gave to demonstrate that it's not true at all.
Please explain publicly, because this process, as others say, it's a public process.
Certainly, Minister.
We don't want to make evaluations secretly.
Certainly. So a member of the public wrote to the panel indicating that I'm a compromised individual, that some time ago I protected an individual that is a friend of mine that I used to work with, and that I withdrew a Section 252 authorization, and goes on to list a number of allegations about impropriety on my part insofar as the Section 252 is concerned. So for the benefit of the public, Section 252 is a provision in the Criminal Procedure Act that authorizes a Director of Public Prosecutions to authorize conduct by the police, not be called traps and undercover operations. So there are certain thresholds that the police require the authority of a Director of Public Prosecutions to conduct those activities. And in the Western Cape, that is one of my responsibilities. And so there's a process where the police, in writing, submit their application. I consider the application. If I have concerns, I write back to the coordinator, who is the interface in the police, with the applicant. We try and resolve it on paper. If not, I meet in person with them to explain my concerns or seek greater clarity. So in this particular instance, this was what they call an intelligence operation. In other words, the outcome of the investigation would not be a prosecution. It would allow the police to broaden their information with a view to then subsequently conducting what we call court-driven operations, where the objective of the operation is to secure an arrest and a prosecution. So this was what we call an intelligence operation. So members of the South African Police Service who were based in the crime intelligence wrote, and they wanted to conduct I don't want to use legal technical terms, but it's in the parlance, it's a reverse thing. In other words, so they were going to provide the contraband to an individual. And so the objective here was to infiltrate a group of Chinese nationals who were operating in the illegal abalone space. And the idea was to obtain abalone and transfer this to China, to these individuals. And normally, Minister, when this happens, the resource is normally held by the Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, DAF, as the custodian of the state resource. And so they play a critical role in empowering the police to do that. And so normally when there's an operation of that nature, DAF are the ones who make the abalone available. So I had a number of difficulties. I won't go into all the details on the first iteration of the document. And I sent it back with comment. I received the second one. I still wasn't happy. And I then called for a meeting with the operatives. And the proposal had moved to the point where they wanted to now use a legal company to export illegal abalone, on the face of it, illegal abalone. And my fear was that a legitimate company is now going to put illegal abalone through its books. They have to declare the revenue, and there will be tax implications. And so I invited my colleague from the tax unit. We had a discussion with the team, gave them some feedback. They knew I wasn't happy with the application. I reduced my concerns to writing again to the police coordinator. And then I went on leave, my annual leave, and the application came back, and a colleague of mine approved the application. Of course, I was on vacation. So when I returned in January, at some point I received an application from the police, an amendment application. They wanted to change the operatives who were working on the operation. And I authorized that. It was a change in personnel, who was the coordinator, etc. The same day I got a phone call from Mr. Dana. And it's okay if I mention his name, Minister, huh? But he's a former colleague. He worked with me in the DSO. He was a senior state advocate, and he reported to one of my deputies. He called me, asked for an urgent meeting. There were some concerns. So I granted the audience, and an entire team arrived. A brigadier from crime intelligence, together with the colonel. The colonel was the direct commander of the applicants. The brigadier obviously is in charge of the entire component. A brigadier from the DPCI, and then Mr. Dana. And the brigadier and Mr. Dana were the ones who actually led the discussion. And they were explaining to me that there were a number of concerns that they had with the operation, that DAF had asked the police to comply with a number of conditions, which the police didn't comply with. And so the brigadier's appeal to me was to withdraw the authorization. So even though I didn't issue the authorization, because it's my portfolio, I'm entitled to withdraw the authorization. But I wasn't happy with the verbal briefing, because that's not how you do things. So I said to them, reduce your concerns to writing, and I'll consider your concerns. Of course, on the face of it, the concerns were valid, on the face of it, but these were verbal explanations to me. A few days later, I received a request in writing from the head of crime intelligence, a major general. In other words, the operatives are within that component, the brigadier, the colonel was with the brigadier has spoken to me, and now the general, who's the most senior person in that entire division, writes to me, explains the non-compliance with DAF's requirements, and requests me to withdraw the authorization. So based on the written request, I issued a directive to withdraw the directive. In other words, the directive becomes null and void, and I asked them to reinstate the situation before the authorization was issued. So what that means in practice is now the abalone that the police have, that the operatives have, must be returned to DAF as the custodian. The abalone that's returned to DAF is not the same abalone that went out. It's poor quality, it's more slime than anything I'm told after the fact, and of course there are many concerns. So Mr. Dana, who had spoken to me in the meeting, had also mentioned that he's preparing a report for his Director General on this very issue. And of course, I don't know what transpires between him and his Director General, but the next thing that happens is I receive a letter via the DPP requesting me to assist the DAF investigation into what transpired in this particular instance. So I did that. I prepared an affidavit, much along the lines of my explanation to the panel of the sequence of event and what transpired. And I subsequently testified in 2 disciplinary hearings of DAF members. So the public comment was that, firstly, I tried to protect Mr. Dana. Mr. Dana was one of the targets of the operation. It's just the furthest from the truth. Mr. Dana was, in fact, the person who alerted me to the wrongdoings, ensured that the police were able to write to me to withdraw the authorization and try to remedy the wrong. But unfortunately, the damage was done. And you would have seen, Minister, from the documents I presented, that there was disciplinary hearings. There was also a public protector investigation. And so the allegations against me that I favored Mr. Dana is the furthest from the truth. In fact, Mr. Dana should be commended for the role he played here in trying to assist the state.
Thank you. I thought it's important because it's a public comment, so that it's not seen as if we didn't deal with it. The other area I want you to deal with as the last one, because the others, it's more around whether you'll prosecute white people, whether you'll prosecute friends, and I see I don't think there's a basis, but there's this one, which you are saying you don't know anything about, and I want you to go on record on it. The Walker Bay Kenners, part of IJ, exported lobsters illegally.
Yes, Minister, I saw that and I was intrigued. Walker Bay Cannery, part of I&J, as they say, and Glomax was the second company that I mentioned. I actually Googled that to see which companies these were. And it seems these are companies that are based in the Western Cape, in the Hermanus area in particular. And where I saw their names was actually in an official government document that they were two companies were amongst the companies that were getting quotas to harvest legal abalone. But the comment also makes no allegation against me, Minister. It just says it makes those statements in the context of the 252 operation, but it's not relevant to the 252, and so therefore all I could say is I noted, but no allegation is made against me.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted you to reflect it because, no, it's linked to the 205. So I saw the lobsters as well.
Yeah.
A link to that. I thought, let's clear it. You've never had interaction with this company so that we close.
Maybe as context, Minister, the company that would have been exporting it, I don't recall it being any of those 2 names.
Okay.
Just for the record.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Advocate Mopp. I'm happy to announce that we've come to the end. I can see the smile as well. Come to the end of our interaction with you. I want to say thank you very much for availing yourself and coming through and having this conversation with us. And wish you all of the best. Travel misses. I know you delayed your travel. Hope you don't miss that flight. You are able to get onto it.
Minister, I was quite emotional earlier. So can I take the time now to thank you, firstly, for the indulgence. I know it's an indulgence. I mean, I had no right to request, and on behalf of my family as well. No, I can't miss that flight. I'll be in trouble. So thank you for that indulgence, and also thank you for the engagement today. I appreciate it. I appreciate the tough questions. That's what it's about. Huh? It's not meant to be a walk in the past, and I hope that I've been able to demonstrate, firstly, my ability to engage with critical questions, my ability to offer solutions, because I do believe that I have the ability to lead the organization, to inspire confidence, and to be the next NDPP. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Advocate Mopp. We'll take lunch break for 30 minutes and resume.